Imagine checking into a hotel alone. You unpack, settle in, and close the door. But what if you never leave that room alive? What if your last moments are surrounded by a mystery so bizarre, so unsettling, that nearly a century later, no one can explain what really happened? This is the case of Room 1046, the most baffling unsolved murder in history. Our story begins on January 2nd, 1935, when a man named Roland T. Owen walked into the hotel President in Kansas City. He was a young man, somewhere between 20 to 30 years old, with brown hair and a noticeable scar just above his ear. What was immediately odd about him wasn't just his appearance, but the fact that he didn't carry any luggage. No suitcase, no clothes for an extended stay, just a comb, a brush, and some toothpaste. It was almost as if he didn't expect to be there for long, or perhaps he had no intention of staying at all. But his request was even stranger. Owen asked for an interior room, away from the windows, something that no guest would normally prefer. Most people wanted a view, but not him. He seemed to want to be shut off from the outside world. When the bellboy escorted him to the room, something felt off. Owen was tense, almost jumpy. His eyes kept scanning the hallway as though he was on edge, afraid of something, or maybe someone. The bellboy recalled how uneasy Owen seemed as the door to room 1046 closed behind him. What was it that had put him on guard? Why was he carrying nothing but the bare essentials? The mystery only deepened. The next day, hotel maid Mary Soptic entered room 1046 to clean. When she opened the door, she was immediately struck by the near-total darkness inside. The shades were drawn tight, and a single dim lamp cast eerie shadows across the walls. There, sitting in the dark, was Roland T. Owen. He didn't seem to be doing anything, just sitting there, staring into the gloom. As she went about her work, Owen casually told her not to lock the door when she left. He claimed he was expecting a friend. Things took another strange turn that afternoon when the maid returned with fresh towels. Inside, she found Owen lying fully clothed on the bed. On the bedside table was a handwritten note that read, "Don, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait." The note was brief, but the name Don stood out. Who was this person? Why was Owen waiting for him, and why did he look so unsettled? The mystery deepened on January 3rd at 10:30 a.m. When the maid returned to clean room 1046, she found something that sent a chill down her spine. The door was locked from the outside. This was highly unusual because the doors at the Hotel President could only be locked from the inside using the key. In other words, someone else had to have locked Owen in. But why? Who had access to the room and what did they want? Once inside, the maid found Owen sitting once again in the dark. He was still as tense as before, almost as if he were waiting for something or someone. He answered the phone, but his voice was different this time, tight, anxious. "No, Don, I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry," he said, as if trying to avoid a confrontation, or perhaps someone he feared. The name Don surfaced again. But who was Don? And why did Owen seem so afraid? Later that night, a woman in room 1048 reported hearing loud voices arguing. A man and a woman shouting, cursing. But in a hotel filled with guests, no one thought much of it. January 4th, 7 a.m. The hotel phone operator noticed something strange. The phone in room 1046 was off the hook, but there was no sound, no one speaking. Concerned, the operator sent bellboy Props to check on the room. As he approached, he could hear a faint voice from inside. "Come in, turn on the lights." But the door was locked, and no one came to open it. Props tried to call out, but there was only silence. An hour passed, and the phone was still off the hook. This time, bellboy Harold Pike took action, using a passkey to unlock the door. What he found inside was chilling. Owen was lying on the bed, naked and disoriented, his body seemingly limp as though he were drunk. Dark, splotchy stains surrounded him. The phone stand was overturned as if something had gone terribly wrong. Pike quickly put the phone back, then left. But a sense of dread hung in the air. By 10:30 a.m., the phone was off the hook once again. Props returned to check, but what he encountered next was pure nightmare. The door opened to reveal Owen on his hands and knees, just 2 feet from the door, clutching his bleeding head. Blood was splattered everywhere. On the walls, the bed, even the ceiling. The sight was grotesque. Owen had been brutally tortured. His wrists and ankles were tied with cord, and a thick rope was wound around his neck. His skull had been fractured, and he had been stabbed multiple times. But what was most haunting was that Owen was still alive, barely clinging to life despite the unimaginable pain. How could anyone survive such a vicious attack? And who could have done this to him? The horror was only beginning to unfold. When Dr. Harold Flanders, a local doctor, asked him what happened, Owen insisted he had fallen on the bathtub. When he was asked who hurt him, he said nobody. His injuries were serious and he was rushed to the hospital. But the mysterious Roland T. Owen would not be giving away any more of his secrets. By the time they arrived at Kansas City General Hospital, he had slipped into a coma and died soon thereafter. No one had seen anyone enter the room that morning. There was no sign of a struggle in the room. Owen had been alive, if drunk, when Pike had entered the room. How did he get brutally murdered in a locked hotel room? That's what the Kansas City Police Department wanted to find out. The investigation uncovered a series of bizarre clues: a bottle of sulfuric acid, a clothing tag from New Jersey, and a bloody handprint on the walls. Yet, despite the brutality of the attack, no knife, no weapon was ever found. The only fingerprints on the phone stand belonged to an unidentified woman. And then there was the most unsettling discovery of all. Roland T. Owen didn't exist. His name was fake, a ghost. No records, no history. It was as if the man had appeared out of nowhere, just to vanish in a pool of blood. The investigation only deepened the mystery, leaving the authorities with no answers. Until, 1 year later, a surprising twist would finally shed some light on who Owen really was and why he met such a gruesome end. Ruby Ogletree, a woman from Alabama, was reading the newspaper when she saw a photo of Owen's face. It hit her like a punch to the gut. This was her missing son, Artemis Ogletree. Artemis had hitchhiked to California in 1934 and never returned home. She hadn't heard from him in over a year, and his disappearance had torn her apart. She recognized the scar on his temple, a mark from a childhood accident. It was unmistakable. But as she continued to study the photo, something didn't sit right. She had received letters from Artemis after his disappearance. Letters filled with details of his life in California, all of them written with his familiar handwriting. But when she looked more closely at the postmarks, a chilling discovery sent a wave of dread through her. Some of the letters had been postmarked after Owen's death in room 1046. How could that be? How could Artemis, the son she thought she had lost, have sent letters from California if he was already lying dead in a Kansas City hotel? To make things even more puzzling, some of the letters weren't even handwritten. They were typed. Artemis had never known how to type. So, who had sent these letters? Was someone using his name and handwriting to cover something up? Or had Artemis somehow faked his own death, leaving behind a trail of confusion and unanswered questions? Ruby's mind raced as the answers seemed to lead in 1,000 different directions, each more disturbing than the last. The truth was slipping further away, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it was out there, hidden in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. With the new lead from Artemis's grieving mother, the police reopened the case, eager to uncover the truth. Their investigation soon pointed to a startling suspect, Joseph Martin. In 1937, Martin had been arrested in New York for murdering his roommate and attempting to ship the body to Memphis. When authorities searched his wallet, they discovered a trove of fake identification, along with handwriting that strikingly matched the letters Ruby Ogletree had received after her son's presumed death. Could Martin have been involved in Artemis's disappearance? But despite these chilling connections, no charges were ever filed against him, and the case slowly faded into the background. The mystery of Roland T. Owen and the man he may have once been remained unsolved, with the answers still buried in the shadows of history. What do you think happened in room 1046? Was it a case of mistaken identity, or something far more sinister? Let us know in the comments. Don't like this video, and definitely don't subscribe. You wouldn't want weekly doses of mind-blowing mysteries, creepy legends, and unexplained events, would you? Yeah, I didn't think so. And whatever you do, don't click on the video above, unless you want to uncover the secrets they don't want you to know.